everyone. Welcome back to 123 Conversations, or welcome if this is your first episode tuning in. I am one of your co-hosts today, Candace Thomas. I'm an intuitive coach, which is just a fancy way of saying I teach people how to use their intuition on purpose to create the results that they want in their life. And I'm joined by my co-host, Terry Dean. And I think she's flipped. I think she's over here on the screen. I keep pointing this way in all my other videos, and she's opposite to me. But Terry Dean is an entrepreneur with over 30 years experience in sales and marketing. And she's also a creative entrepreneur. She's been doing some really cool things. So be sure to follow her to see more of what that's about. And we'll give you our contact information at the end. And of course, today we're really excited because we're joined by Jondi Whitis, who is down below, I believe, on the screen if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. And excited to have Jondi here. I met Jondi, has it been a couple years ago, through Terry. So it's kind of like a full circle here. And it's been amazing. For those of you who don't know, Jondi Whitis helps people learn how to feel better fast. Feel better fast is her whole deal. Also, she calls it emotional first aid, which we're going to talk about today and take folks through some exercises. Well, we're not going to do it. Jondi's going to do it, and we're going to enjoy it. But Jondi is also a trainer, a mentor, a practitioner of modern energy techniques, helping real people release modern day problems, pains, beliefs, and troubling memories. And she's known best for her work with the emotional freedom technique, tapping, the most popular form of energy psychology, evidence-based and flexibility, capable of making just about anything easier, clearer, and better. And when I say she's a trainer, she's like an accredited master trainer of trainers. And she teaches heart-centered entrepreneurs, healers, teachers, facilitators from all walks of life. And that's she has classes and workshops all the time. And we'll have Jondi's contact information at the end. So if you enjoyed this today, I highly recommend that you follow Jondi. So Jondi, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Great pleasure to be here. I love you both, and I'm delighted to be here. That's how I am.
Yeah. We're excited to have you. And something that I didn't mention is every year you host a spring energy event. And I know this one, at the time that we're filming this one just ended, but spring energy event is amazing. And again, I highly recommend following Jondi so you can get more details about what that's like. So many different presenters and the connections I made at the C event a couple of years ago. It was phenomenal. You know, I still, when I went back again this year, I remembered so many people, and it was like catching up with old friends. It was really, really lovely, which is rare when you go to different types of workshops or programs. It's kind of like nice in the experience and everybody forgets about each other. But I just want to mention that the C event is pretty incredible and amazing. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your work. Glad to have
you are
you
so
here.
welcome. And the whole idea is what you and Terry are already doing. We're connecting people to themselves, to what is good, to what is satisfying, and to what helps them become whole again. And that's what you're doing. And so that's why I'm so delighted to join you. And Terry brought me you. Terry brought me Dr. Lori Eanes. I mean, she's the connector.
Actually, and, Dr. Lori brought you me, but we stuck like that. So it's
my goodness.
It all worked. And it goes back to the C event too, and kind of what Candace just said, the connections there. And I know Dr. Lori still is in touch with many people from the event.
Yeah.
She was one of the presenters. I immediately was like, oh my God, I love Jondi. I want to do some work with her. And you've been able to help me through some sticky situations over the last couple of years with, things that didn't feel right immediately. I'm like, Jondi, I need help. I need a quick fix.
Well, quick is a hallmark of tapping. Tapping is just a Kleenex word for all kinds of fingertip stimulation of our body's acupuncture system points, things like that. It's just how you do it is different by the various versions of it. But the cool thing is it doesn't matter so much. It matters that you do it. It matters that you help yourself and you re-empower yourself. And that's what all of us are so delighted to do. Help people reconnect and then re-empower them so that they can have their better life.
Absolutely.
So I'm really curious about emotional first aid and feeling better fast.
Mm-hmm.
Can you break down a little bit about what kinds of things does that apply to? Does it apply to all sorts of situations that people are experiencing, or are there certain things that like your technique works better with than others for folks? Like,
that's a
I'm
great
really
question.
curious. Yeah.
For one thing, I've never found anything it didn't help. And I've been doing it a long time. I've never found anything it can't be helpful on. And so the feel better fast idea is so people can see what's in it for them. Humans don't do anything for no reason. They may think they don't do it for any reason, but essentially they do. There's always something in it. And I'm not saying that to be selfish. I'm saying that to be very humanly oriented. So if I say, would you like to feel better fast? They say, well, yes, I would, right? It tells you why you want to take the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional first aid is not a brand. I'm actually sickened by the amount of branding that goes on all the time with what is essentially a holistic health principle, right? For everyone. And I'm also paying it forward for Gary Craig, who really codified the version that is the most popular called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. I'm paying it forward because he gave it to the world. So I feel I need to do that too. So that's why I have this much bigger picture than branding. But emotional first aid means to me, in the moment, strategies for recovering one's resourceful state. Okay. Tapping per se, especially EFT tapping, has words to it. And so it's like mindfulness focus and tapping with acupuncture points create this better thing.
Mm-hmm.
But emotional first aid is almost like a precursor. Before you get there and start putting your words in it, let's do some wordless strategies or interventions to return you to a resourceful state. Then you're back online. Then we can have a conversation.
It's powerful.
I
Seems
love that.
to work.
Yeah. And I asked you before, but is that kind of like, is the 3x3 an example of emotional first aid?
Yes, absolutely.
And so we talk with our guests before we have them on, and John is like, oh, how about we just do the 3x3? And I know her, we've tag teamed, we've done that before. I'm like, oh, do that on our show. Mm-hmm. So I asked, like, would you be willing to walk us through so people right away can have an experience of what
absolutely.
you mean? Okay, yeah, I'll let you take it away.
So let's do this. The 3x3 is really good for, let's call it a reset. Okay. Right? Reset. And it's also good for clarifying, because when we're upset, we're almost always confused. Right? So that's why the 3x3 is so powerful. So let's take our palms. Our hands, by the way, are a hologram of our entire body. Our acupuncture points are reproduced on our hands. But I want to take one hand and put it over the other hand. And I'm going to take both hands and put it over that sternum, which is a high chest. So it's going to go, I'm going to tilt my camera a bit. It's going to go on top of collarbone, which is a huge beneficial acupuncture point, and our thymus, which is just below that, and our heart chakra. This covers so much territory, which is why it's great. So I'm back here, and I'm just going to ask you to breathe with me, and I will do it more audibly than most people breathe naturally, so you can be with me, okay? So we're going to do 3 ins and outs. The outs I'm going to make longer than the ins because it helps, okay? So here we go. 1. And 2. And 3. Great. Now I'm going to take a minute here. That's the action, but I'm going to make it more meaningful still to the people watching. I'm going to ask you right now, write down what is kind of troubling you currently? It could be a situation, it could be a pain or an ache, it could be an emotion or an idea or even something that happened, but make it very recent and very present to you, which means that it's still banging around in your head as you're trying to make sense of it. So I'm going to show you how this might help you, okay? So as soon as you've written that down, this was down. And now I'm going to ask you to go through that motion again, because now we actually have a little bit of awareness that's personal to try this out on. Okay, so here we go. And this time I'll lead you through the whole procedure before I talk to you this way again. Okay, in. And in. And in. I'm going to ask you to slide the bottom hand out and onto the top. Place it back down and ask yourself, we'll talk about it later, but ask yourself, what thing is present to me about this right now? Just let your mind answer and breathe again. And again, in. And in again. Good. Ask yourself again, and what thing is present to me about this now? Listen for it. And slide your hands and put them back down. And go with me one more time. And last one. And let's put our hands down for a moment and just ask one more time. And what is present to me now about this thing? And allow yourself to answer that in your own mind. You can write it on your paper if you want. But I'm going to go back and ask Candace and Terry, what did you notice? And any answer is fine, by the way. This is an experiential learning piece. It's very personal and private, but I trust that because of what you do, that you're able to make some kind of discernment of what that was like for you. And Candace is nodding, so I'm going to pick on you first and say, what are you discerning happened in that 2-minute exercise?
Well, the information I got was very visual, which I don't normally get when I do exercises like this. Usually it's like words that I receive, but it was hitting on so many levels. So I'll describe it as I saw imagery of a green gem, green jewel, and it was like, oh, there's a jewel here. And then it was connecting to mountains, like some of the sexy mountains that people photograph. Like, you know how it's some of the mountains are like kind of carved and smooth. And I can't think of the name of the place, like in Utah and different places where it's like the light streams in, like sexy mountains. So it was like a jewel and sexy mountains. And then it was just more time, just time and space. And as I link those things together with what I'm concerned about at the moment, it was like, it's give it time. It's like, I felt like the things I'm doing are the jewels, are the gems, and it's fine. And the sexy mountain is right now, everything is building a foundation and it just needs more time. That's it. And with it came a feeling and a sensation of, I know what I'm doing, even though I didn't think I knew what I was doing. Like it's all good and I'm safe and I'm held. Was an experience that I had with everything I received.
How wonderful. Yeah. And I really like that. It's all good. I'm safe and I'm held. I really appreciate your boiling it down to that because it matches the 3 times 3 sort of idea that we were doing in that little piece of EFA. Terry, what was that like for you?
Well,
and
first,
it's going to be entirely different, probably.
It was entirely different. First of all, what's funny, and this happens when working with Candace a lot because she is super psychic, the thing that dropped in instantly, because we're always, not always, but sometimes thinking ahead, like, okay, so how do I lay this out? Candace said gems and jewels. And I was like, in my mind, the first thing I thought was, boy, my thing is not nearly as sexy as Candace's. And then Candace talked about sexy mountains and sexy jewels. I'm like, where's all this sexy stuff coming from?
And also you see that comparison is just death to any good idea, right?
It's just so funny because this happens all the time, or I'll be looking at a piece of paper with words on it and Candace will say something like, that's exactly what I'm reading right now. And it's a completely different subject. But for me, it was definitely more physical. And I didn't have the sexy experience that Candace did. But initially I went in, when I took myself to the thing that I feel nervous about, I got even more nervous at the very beginning.
Yep.
There is something for me too, so powerful, and I need to do it more often, just about holding my heart and holding myself, right? And then switching hands. It became less loaded for me by the end. And I could feel the physical not butterflies. They're like the nervous energy. I hold a lot in my gut. And immediately I was just like, oh God, I have to think about this thing that I don't want to think about right now. And you made me do it. But by the time we were done, it was less loaded, less diffused, and the anxiousness in my physical being dissipated.
Beautiful.
So, and I feel more grounded right now talking to the two of you than I did going in. So,
well, that's
awesome.
All good. Of course, it's all good, right?
That's not sexy.
That is the sexy. Like, to embody that. That's amazing.
You're so sweet, Candace.
I mean, I'm smiling because I know you both and I love you both. And I'm just hoping that we are also holding that space for the other people listening, in that, again, it's so personal. It's so different. Everybody's different. This shows you right here. These two people know each other really well and they're so different, right? And that's good, right? That is the secret sauce, is that we're individuals. And yet I also value, Candace came to quick clarity,
right?
And making meaning, which is what humans do, about that thing that concerned her. And so she was able to walk away with more clarity and reassurance, is what I heard. Terry, on the other hand, got to experience what I think is probably a wider audience idea, which is, I don't even want to think about that thing, not any deeper than this. It's sort of like, I just, go up to here, okay? But we kid ourselves all the time by saying, oh, I don't want to do that. So we leave it going around like a marble in a tin can, instead of using this small intervention to go a little deeper and go, oh, yeah, it went up before it went down. Because when I allow myself to become more mindful, I often find that the intensity increases. Of course it does. Now I'm actually allowing myself to think about it. But the great news of all kinds of tapping is it's almost always like the roller coaster. And boom, now it's going down because I allowed myself to receive the messages from my body, mind, and heart. Right? And so automatically there is a, from the whole system. She's listened. She's finally, right? All that tension,
right?
Which some people keep using that anxiety word. Anxiety doesn't mean anything unless you apply it to the person feeling it.
Right.
What's that like for you? Is a full and whole conversation, and the A word just means some kind of upset they're feeling right now.
Right.
At which point, that's what's beautiful about this. If you're applying as a single person for yourself, that would be self-care. But you can also apply that little tiny intervention as peer-to-peer care, friend care, colleague care. Now, I don't know what to do about that either, June, but this thing helps me think better. I'll show you how to do it and let's see if it works for you. Right. The end of the lesson. Because everything else is, I'm from Missouri, show me. Yeah, I just did. And right. I don't have an agenda about what that's like for you.
Right.
I just want to be of help.
Yeah. Right. And I know for not to make this about me, but about me, I'm really good at just muscling through and getting things done.
Yeah.
And the tapping has really, the exercises I've done with you and a couple of other people, it's just like I can be so in my head, but the minute the tapping starts to happen, I can be on my knees and be in a heap of tears. And then 30 minutes later, get up and feel absolutely refreshed and reset in a way where I go, oh, wait, that wasn't me crying 30 minutes ago about what? I don't even remember. But just things get so locked up, right? And I think it's just, for me, I know it's been a lifetime of just don't go too deep. Don't think about it because you don't want to fall out here.
Yeah.
And Candace, with your permission, I'm doubling down on the Terry thing because I think that is so common. Like it or not, our country's European reality is pilgrim ethic. Right? You must, you have to, it's so much work, you have to, you did. That pilgrim epic kind of ethic, kind of thinking is what causes us later in the country's history to have the idea of, well, you just soldier on.
Right.
And later still, it's like, or a Marine. Right? That's just an evolution of the pilgrim ethic that says you have to just, and the truth is that doesn't work for very long. Almost every new client that hears this message, it's like they're in their 40s.
Right.
They're in their early 40s. They just crossed the Rubicon. And all the stuff that I learned to do is not working so well anymore. It's because their bucket is too full of soldiering on and just going, just suck it up, buttercup. Well, bucket's too full now and you're sloshing everywhere and it's too heavy to carry. And suddenly, what do I do now? I didn't learn a different way. And that's why I think it's so important what we're doing here. So Terry, I'm going to play a little game with you. That's going to be a little another episode of 3x3, which is just a way to refer to 3 times 3 breathing.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to restrict your answers to one word or image. Okay. That way, I think it's going to be kind of private for you. And I think the people at home can play along with us, right?
Okay.
All right. So I want you to bring back the thing that caused you anxiety to even think about before, that you feel better about now, but it's still there. I can see it, right?
Still there.
Still there. So I want you to say, okay, acknowledge that and just set it aside right on your desk there. Just set it aside. Okay. Now I want you to be with me and I want you to do the hands on the sternum. We're going to breathe. Okay. Just in and out. And again. And out. And in. Out. Switch your hands. Bottom moves to top and back on the sternum. Before we breathe again, I'm going to ask you, what one word describes what is present to me about this right now? One word.
Oh, do you want me to say it?
One
Okay.
word.
Actually, it's 2 words.
Okay.
Say 2, just more calm.
There you go. So I am okay and I'm more calm. Okay, I got that. So thank you, and go with me again. And 2. And 3. Slip those hands around, bring them back down. What one word is present to me about this now?
Can I say 2?
Yes.
Feeling or relaxing. One word, relaxing.
Okay. I am okay and I'm relaxing. Got it. In and out. And in and out. And in. And the last long out. Just out of sheer habit, I'm going to switch my hands around and just ask myself one last time. And now what word describes what is present to me about all this?
Calm.
I'm okay and I'm calm.
Safe.
So, and safe. Beautiful. Because as I've often said in all my classes, humans ain't doing nothing unless they feel safe. Right? They're just not. They'll shine you on. They're not. So taking that as my, let's call it, felt sense experiment for people, I want to show them that 3 minutes tops resulted in going from this to this. And when I'm here, I can use my noggin, AKA all the things I know to do, right? But all those things I know to do, I actually can't do when I'm not feeling safe enough to even think about it. And that's what I wanted to share with you.
It's powerful. That is powerful. Once again, in your hands, I've had a complete shift.
Well, good. That's what we're all here for, you know?
Wow. And I would say anyone who's watching, if you follow these exercises below, and I trust that you did, if it resonated, of course, please drop in the comments what you experienced, what you have questions around. And, you know, I'm just going to shamelessly plug, be sure to like this video too and subscribe to our channel. But if you like what you see here, but definitely let us know how you were affected and what you experienced. And then, of course, again, we'll share Jondi's contact information at the end if you have more questions that you want to connect with her about. Now, Jondi, we just kind of danced over like emotional freedom technique and tapping, and that's just tapping on the different acupressure points and meridian points in the body. But something you keep saying is there are different ways to do it. And for people who are familiar with EFT, how do you know which way is right for you? Is there a way that is it all like, it just depends on who you are, what works for you? Or are there certain types that are better for certain situations? Like, how do you choose the kind of tapping that you do?
What a great question. I'm a big believer in self-awareness and self-knowledge. And therefore, that means what is my experience of it is going to rule over every other kind of protocol rule. So there's many, many ways to do it, but the way I teach EFT is its structural integrity, because it has been codified to contain like 7 different things in one very quick little protocol that are all good things. And so I teach people how to make the recipe And then I encourage them to feel into their own experience of that. And then I try to lighten up a little. And I say, for instance, if you've ever had oatmeal, have you noticed how this person likes brown sugar? This person likes milk. This person likes raisins. This person likes nuts. Does it matter? No, they are using the recipe and customizing it to please them. I think tapping is the same way. So I don't mean willy-nilly, doesn't matter how you do it. I mean, learn this and then start to listen to your body and your heart and your mind and say, you know what? This feels so soothing to me. That might be your point. You might just want to do that sometime instead of an entire algorithm, which is a fancy name for a recipe. But you might just do this a lot. I do this a lot, which is not tapping per se, but it's acupressure, isn't it? I do this a lot sometimes because it seems like a mnemonic as well as an actionable that helps me sort of bend and flex and test that out, right? Just feel into that. I've got my tactile sense going for me, my kinesthetic, blah, blah, blah. What does it do for me? Well, it puts me more mindfully in touch. Okay, great. That might be your point. So to answer Candace's question, it matters that you do it, right? And it matters that you have personal integrity in doing it. I know what the algorithm is, and now I am customizing for my best use, right? So if you see somebody, this is the problem with EFT on YouTube or stuff like that, you know, the internet giveth and the internet taketh away. Any fool with a camera can get on YouTube and say anything they want, which is why a lot of people walk away confused about EFT, because a lot of people are doing it their way. And then they go, well, which is the way? And I'm going to say there is a the way when you're talking about EFT. Gary Craig codified that way. But there's a lot of people out there doing other teachers, other styles, or maybe they're doing their customization. That's cool. But the part that gets Jondi angry is when they say, oh yeah, this is EFT, this is how you do it. And then you're just going, what is that? Because it's a hot mess if seen in that lens. But if they were to say with integrity, this is how I do it, and it seems to work for me, I'd love to show you. That would be of integrity.
Right.
Does that help, Candace?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think you hit it on the head, because there are so many EFT videos out there. And everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are, the styles are so different. And then there are videos about why this other person's video doesn't work and why this isn't going to work. And so it like just spirals out. It's the same as anything, you know, that's just the state of social media at the moment. But so I think that's very useful and helpful for people. I really like what you said, you know, if you participated in it, did it work for you? Did you like that? Did it resonate, as a big indicator of whether to keep with someone that you see online? I mean, quickest thing would just be to reach out to Jondi. I mean, but
I just want to, I feel compelled to gild the lily here and normalize that. You know, if you go to the store and you get vitamins and they give you heartburn, that's an indication that those vitamins are probably not a good formula for you. So it doesn't mean all vitamins are bad. It means, you know, that brand doesn't work for me so well. So I should try something else to achieve the same goal. And I think tapping is the same way. There's EFT, TFT, TTT, all these different, you know, we just love those anagrams and whatever. I think they're frankly just confusing. But there are certain algorithms that are very helpful to learn and then customize to your experience.
And the beautiful thing is, you don't need a prescription for it. You don't need to go to the pharmacy and spend money.
No one has to do it for you or to you. Don't you love that?
Exactly. I mean, it's just such a high form of self-care.
It
And
is. And Gary's first intention was
mhm.
to create a universal self-care,
Mm,
which he did so beautifully. And then if you take it to a different level, after you learn that, you take it to a different level, peer-to-peer care, so
mhm,
beautiful. And if you take it to a different level still,
mhm,
in the hands of a well-trained, qualified practitioner, it
mhm,
becomes therapeutic care that we're
mhm.
working with people. Again, it's not I'm doing this to you. We're working with each other. And I happen to have a very good handle on this enormous toolbox that I'm
Right.
going to customize for you and with you.
And I just want to also make a comment. Sometimes it's hard for people to verbalize
Mm,
what the traumas are.
yeah,
And we hold those things in our bodies. So
yeah,
I know you've done a lot of work with first responders, and you've gone into traumatic situations and worked with teachers and worked with people who have been in some really, tough situations.
mhm.
The PTSD stuff, that
Sure.
people experience and they can't talk about it. But that's,
Right.
to me, that's such a huge, powerful thing, um, where it's helped me, because there are things I have a hard time verbalizing. But man, you get the right languaging going on with someone like you, or Dr. Lori or somebody, and it's just like, oh, and then the relief and the release is so powerful, and
Right.
we don't have to be held back by anything that's happened to us in our lives. There are solutions, and there are practitioners, and there are healing techniques that are available. And I would just encourage anyone that's been through anything they don't think they can work through, if you haven't tried uh, EFT or tapping, I mean, definitely explore it. And I would highly recommend reaching out to you, Jondi. And
Thank you.
I know Candace refers you frequently, and Candace has incorporated the EFT into the work that she does.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, it's powerful. And wow, I mean, I think you need to come back and be on the show, like, from
Well,
time
we can
to
talk
time to
about
do some
anything you want
exercises.
whenever you want. But I'm
Right.
going to say something to your point, okay? Because I think it's helpful for people. Um, More and more, we have generations walking around with unresolved trauma.
Mhm.
An unresolved trauma experience is as common as Texas dirt now. It just is.
Mhm.
And COVID has exacerbated what already existed, as I just said, because it disconnected, it isolated, it caused a disruption
Mhm.
that there were not precisely words to talk about
Mhm.
if you aren't already oriented towards being able to sit with and describe to yourself your own experience.
Mhm.
That is a learned skill. I don't know anybody just born that does that. It's a
Mhm.
learned skill, but it's easily learned. The other thing I'm going to say is resolving is releasing.
Mhm.
And that's what we're really wanting. Um, to your point, many times things happen when we are young, and there are not words for that. It is pre-verbal,
Mhm.
or you may have just encountered verbal, but you don't have a way to make sense of things.
Mhm.
And since most of our stuff gets set by the time we're 7, it makes sense that there's a lot of trouble putting words to this,
Right.
right? But this is a really good tool for doing that in the hands of a very practiced and capable person.
Mhm.
So the other thing I wanted to say is PTSD is something that goes in the DSM-5, which is a mental health directory for mental health professionals, so they can easily refer to something and, yes, put a code on your insurance form.
Mm.
PTS is something everyone has encountered, post-traumatic stress.
Mhm.
And most of the first responders, veterans, etc., they don't want to be a disorder.
Right.
They have post-traumatic symptoms, right? And another thing you'll find is in the first responders kind of category, which includes veterans, they're supposed to be the helpers. So they're not going to really want to talk to you about where they need help, because refer back to our earlier conversation, I'm a Marine, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm. So be gentle in the idea of there are little traumas every day that cause us stress. And the quicker we resolve what that is and what it's all about, the easier we release it, the less we carry around, and the less likely we are to be diagnosed by somebody as a disorder holder.
Or erupt.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, there's a lot of that out there, right? It's true. Anyway, I didn't mean to pontificate, but I think it's important that we speak cleanly about what this is and what we're seeing.
I mean, it's an interview, so I'm glad that you pontificated.
Right.
That works well for what we're doing here.
Okay.
This was great. So Jondi, how can people find more information about you and your services and your classes? What's the best place for them to get a hold of you?
I have cleverly named my website jondiwhitis.com.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's highly creative name. But if they go there, they'll be able to see that I offer training, I have special events, I offer mentoring, I offer client services. And even though I'm best known as a trainer and a mentor for practitioners, I maintain a small client base to keep myself very honest. I don't teach what I don't know. I don't teach what I don't know works, right? So I would say look out maybe this summer, whenever you're listening, look out for my emotional first aid classes. Again, it's not a brand, but it is an area that helps everybody deal with real life living. Okay, so look out for that. That's a great place to start. If you already know something about tapping, or you want to know more, then you should probably jump into one of my classes, which are cleverly named things like level 1 and 2. Really boring. But the idea is the first bit that we do is foundational, and the second bit we do is fundamentals of application. So that makes sense, right? And then for some of you who've already been tapping for a long time, I offer very advanced class on using applications in much more creative ways. Like I have weave classes, which is not about textiles, but it is about using these tools at the highest level of flow and integration and creativity. And that's my bait. I love that.
Right. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm also going to add, every spring there's the spring energy event, which is C is the acronym. So definite, like whenever you're watching or listening to this episode, please be sure to check this out.
Every year in April, and it's the weekend that's not the holiday.
Okay. Yeah. Easy. So Terry, how can people get a hold of you?
Probably LinkedIn is the best. Terry, Terri, last name Dean, Dean. Or you can find me on any of the femcity.com websites or anywhere on social media.
All right. Nice.
And what about you, Miss Candace?
My website is Candace Thomas Intuitive, because I couldn't get Candace Thomas. Someone had already taken that name. But you can also find me on Instagram, Candace Intuitive, and I'm on Clubhouse at just Candace Thomas on Clubhouse. And I usually do weekly talks for free, where we practice using our intuition on purpose. And it's a lot of fun for me. I'm biased because it's my group, but you get to connect in real time and learn how to manifest using your intention, and then ask questions about your experience. So Jondi, thank you so much for being our guest today. It was a pleasure and a joy to have you here. And again, folks watching, please show some love. Give us your feedback or comments or questions below. We can give any information to Jondi. If you leave something in the comments, we'll forward that to her so you can get a response. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel to see our other amazing experts. So thank you so much for watching 1, 2, 3 Conversations, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.